Mr. Speaker, I am pleased to rise today to speak about our new relationship with Google. Honorable members will be aware of Google's announcement of Nuvem, Portuguese for cloud, cable, a transatlantic cable connecting the U.S. with Portugal, actually via the Azores, with dual branches landing in Bermuda at Devonshire Bay and Annie's Bay in St. David's. Mr. Speaker, it was actually 4 years ago when I tabled the bill that subsequently became the Submarine Communications Cables Act 2020. At a high level, this legislation provides the establishment of a submarine fiber optic cable corridor with landing points at Devonshire Bay and Annie's Bay, sets out the framework for the license and regulation of such cables, provides submarine cable operators with certainty of the process with decisions within 60 to 75 days of submission of application, introduces the concept of transit cables and local cables, outlines the penalties and consequences of contraventions within the submarine cable corridor. Mr. Speaker, Bermuda is currently served by 5 cables, 3 of which are aging, 1 has been upgraded, and 1 is in the process of being upgraded. The current cables currently have significant spare capacity to serve Bermuda's market. 4 of the 5 cables land in the U.S. and 1 in Latin America. The current submarine cable corridor was designed to provide the flexibility to land 5 additional cables into Bermuda. The cable corridor was designed to attract new cables to Bermuda as part of a strategy to build out Bermuda as a digital Atlantic hub, using transit opportunities to leverage Bermuda's strategic location in the Atlantic. This, coupled with a favorable and certain legislative framework, encouraged operators to land and expand. Mr. Speaker, the Bermuda Business Development Agency has been promoting and liaising with those target companies focusing on the Atlantic Digital Hub and the other services Bermuda can offer to the submarine cable industry generally. The target submarine cable operators in today's market for cable builds are the large data network providers, that being Google, Facebook, Meta, known as Meta, Microsoft, Amazon, etc. Mr. Speaker, over the past few months, my office and the Office of the Minister of Public Works, Honorable David Burt, and the Bermuda Land Development Company have been in direct contact with Google and their team leading up to this announcement. The importance of this trusted relationship was reinforced with a meeting in New York this month by myself and Google Global Head of Government Affairs, Karan Bhatia. Strict confidentiality measures were put in place prior to the announcement to manage the flow of information. This was critical to Bermuda and formed part of that trusted relationship. Mr. Speaker, it is intended that the cable will be built and laid over the coming 2 years with a ready-for-service date in 2026. Marine route surveys in Bermuda will begin later this year, along with the required permitting and licensing application. Acquisition of land and the construction of landing points and landing station to be built will be required. Significantly, Google has announced this first cable with a plan to roll out an additional new cable every 2 to 3 years thereafter. A significant cable landing station is planned to be built to enable multiple cable landings. This is more than a cable landing just passing through Bermuda. It will provide a backbone for a wider strategy of a digital port with all of the requirements for supporting data and digital infrastructure. Mr. Speaker, the landing of this cable and subsequent ones will deliver on the government's commitment and strategy to outline our economic strategy document, which of course is led by the Ministry of Economy and Labor. In particular, it will establish Bermuda and the Mid-Atlantic hub and would provide reduced latency in communications with Europe and the Americas. This will be a new route for Bermuda with direct connectivity to Europe. Act as a magnet, drawing other players in the communication industry, whether laying their own cables or leasing from Google. Provide redundancy for cables currently serving Bermuda. Be a 25 to 40-year commitment for Bermuda from Google. Mr. Speaker, there are a number of other benefits to Bermuda with the landing of the Nuvem cable, including the building of a large cable landing station requiring a footprint generating significant economic spin-off and benefits, including a cash injection for the purchase of freehold land from the government, subject to the approval of the legislature. A new investment in physical plant and infrastructure, which will provide jobs for Bermudians and Bermuda companies in the construction and maintenance of the plant. Employment for around 10 to 20 direct positions needed on an ongoing basis for the cable landing station. This will likely also generate the ripple effects of jobs in other areas with the technology hub created. Creating the infrastructure which supports, one, a technology hub for fintech, and two, increased satellite earth stations. Communication satellite earth stations are already either set up in Bermuda or showing increased interest in placing additional earth stations in Bermuda. Increasing investment in renewable energy. The cable landing station will need between 600 kilowatts and 3 megawatts per annum of electricity over time as the cables ramp up. Providing access to Google's significant resource and support, including training opportunities to Bermudians by giving them access to Google training platforms. Providing support and advice for other sustainability projects and marine-related activities, including providing technology for monitoring and enforcement. Supporting Bermuda's educational initiatives and community development opportunities. Mr. Speaker, we welcome Google's proposed investment in Bermuda and look forward to a long and productive relationship with them. Mr. Speaker, finally, I will be remiss if I did not recognize the ongoing efforts of Ms. Fiona Beck, formerly of the Bermuda Business Development Agency and now a consultant with Google. Ms. Beck was invaluable in the development of the Submarine Communications Act 2020 and has been instrumental in establishing Google's relationship with Bermuda. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.